Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So I will start for today's session. Right, for today's session topic, we will talk about MikroTik hotspot with user manager. All right. So for the course outline today, we will cover on how to install the user manager package and how to configure the hotspot server configuration. And third, user manager configurations. And lastly, we will see how to generate your user and profile using user manager applications. Okay, and then for the today objective, I will provide the necessary knowledge in MikroTik user manager additional package. Okay, before we start, I will recap a bit about the MikroTik product that we have. Actually, MikroTik have a Ethernet router, switches, wireless system, wireless for home and office, and also LTE routers. All right, MikroTik product range from lower to the high end. Right, for the lower you can use for home use, on the high end you can go to using for high deployment environments. Okay, MikroTik also have the wireless access point and point to point, and also have a switch. All right, PoE and non-PoE switch. Okay, next, what is the user manager actually? User manager is actually additional package from Router OS. Okay, this one you can use as a Radius server. You can manage authentication in hotspot, PPP, Router OS user, wireless or DHCP server. Right? So user manager actually not only for hotspot, you can also use for Router OS user authentications. Right? And the important is all these things is free by Router OS. Okay, and then the requirements to using the user manager, you need at least router board with minimum RAM 32 MB and 2 MB free space for the database, and then will only work on x86 or CHR architecture only. Okay, so if you want to use a user manager, you need to justify your MikroTik router architecture first. Right, and then we go to what is actually Radius server. Radius server, the user manager is Radius server that I told before, and then for remote authentication, that in user services. Okay, and also SS triple A lah. Okay, and then what is benefit if you are using user manager or Radius server? You can manage your devices in centralized. Okay, for example, here you have a one MikroTik as a Radius server, and at your other sites or maybe your branches, you have a one MikroTik run as a Radius client. So to authenticate each router at your branches, you doesn't need create one by one for admin access. So you just only create user from the user manager from the MikroTik Radius server here. So you can manage all your branches using one centralized admin user, right? And then Radius clients. Okay, actually RouterOS is a Radius clients. There can be Radius server and Radius client as well. Okay, but for the Radius server, not all MikroTik supported as a Radius client, Radius server for user manager. Okay, for the Radius client, all MikroTik can be as a Radius clients. Okay, and for the Radius client, there are no optional package or additional package you need to install. Right, and then they can authenticate using any other Redis server as well. Okay, not only for user manager. You can integrate with any Redis server that we have with standard protocol. Okay, and then the lastly is the Redis client module is totally free from MikroTik. Okay, this is Redis client. The services supported you can use as a PPP, hotspot, DCP, login, or wireless. Okay, and then the accounting port is default. Normally we are using 1812 and 1813. And then the secret key, this is important for authentication process. So you must create the secret key. Right, how actually Redis client works, RouterOS, okay, for example, you are created hotspot in MikroTik, for example, and in hotspot server, they already have a local user database, right? So if you run both on your router bot, you have a local user and Redis user. Okay, local user will be a priority on the MikroTik, and Redis will be a secondary priority on the MikroTiks. Right, later you see on the configuration part. Okay, this is user manager package. You need to download it in MikroTik website. All right. So once you download and extract the file, you need to drag this NPK file into the file inside the MikroTik box, and then you need to reboot one time to MikroTik install the package. Right, and then the licensings. This one you need to identify. Okay, if you are using routerbot with level 3 license, you only can support 10 active user at one time. Okay, and if you're using level 4 license, you can only support maximum 20 users, 20 active users, meaning that the user already authenticate. Okay, if you're using level 5, you can only support only until 50 users. And if you're using level 6 license, they will unlimited for support active user. Okay, normally MikroTik, the minimum license currently is level 4. Or if you go to RB4011, they're using level 5. If you go to RB1100 and upper, the license they're using license 6. Okay, this is a web interface for userman. Normally we are using the IP address for MikroTik. This one you can access via WAN interface IP MikroTik and / user manager userman. Right, this one for CLI interface. Okay, for the in details, what is user manager? You can go to MikroTik Wikipedia and then go to manual user manager. They will explain more in details. All right, this is a few tips when you're running the user manager in MikroTik. Okay, normally user confused on the users and customer. Actually, what is user? User is the userman will authenticate. Okay, meaning that, for example, you create a hotspot server, so user here will be used as a username and password for authentication. And customer is actually admin access to the user manager portal. All right, and then if you are using as a PPP server, so you can also use a Redis for authentications. Okay, if normally we create one by one under the profile, under the secret, okay, if you create manually, you just click here to create manual. But if you're using Redis server, if you're using Redis server, you just need to tick on this. So for PPP, you can you create user from the user manager and directly connect from the client side using user that you created on the Radius server user main. Okay, PPP service. This one you can use as a VPN as well. Right. So you no need to create one by one inside the MikroTik. So you just create in user manager. Okay, more easier for you to handling user and the profilings. Right. And then if you are using user manager, the profiling will override. Okay, if you have a local profile, they will override to user manager. Right, this one is PPP profile limitations. So you can limit on the bandwidth, rate limit. Okay, so everything you can control here. And then the hotspot services. If you are using hotspot, you need to enable Radius authentications. Right. This one for Radius client configuration parts. You need to make sure the port Radius is same port as you created in user manager, and then the IP address. Okay, and lastly the secret key must be same when you create Radius client in MikroTik client side. Okay, I show you the one example to create a hotspot. Then you will authenticate using user manager users. Okay, actually this is this example just only using normal bridge port. You can also using a VLAN or specific port that you want to run the hotspot. Okay, but this example I just using the bridge port. Right, when you open the Winbox, you go to bridge. You create one bridge for port that we will bridging in one port in one bridge. Okay, first you create the bridge and then you choose which port will be bridging in here. Okay, for example, we are using WLAN 1 and Ether 2 LAN. Okay, once created the bridge, you need to assigning IP addresses for the bridge hotspot. Okay, under the address list, you just click add and then insert the information that required. Just put the IP address, subnet mask, and interface. Okay, and next is you need to configure hotspot server. Okay, okay, you go to IP and then hotspot. This main frame will appear, so you need to hotspot setup here. You just click here, and then the first tab will be shown like this. They will ask you which interface you will create as a hotspot server. Okay, for example, we are using bridge hotspot, so we just choose the bridge hotspot interface, and then they will ask you what is the gateway IP. So you just put here 10.10.1 for example, okay, and then the subnet, and then they will ask you the IP pool. Okay, if by default it will starting from 2 until 254. Okay, if you want to specific range, you can modify here. And then DNS, you can using any DNS, public DNS or incoming ISP DNS. Alright, DNS name, this one you can ignore or you can put any to replace gateway IP as a DNS name. Right, and then if you want to create local hotspot user, you just next. If not, you just ignore this page. And then once complete, okay. Once complete, you need to this one is the hotspot server when you complete the created, and then you can define how many address per MAC. Okay, by default is 2, and then the idle timeout if user connect to network without authentication, how long the MacOtic will keep IP for the MAC address. Okay, and then under the server profile, you need to change this one. Okay, you need to use HTTP chop and click on use radius. Okay, if you're using user manager, you need to tick on the use radius server. And then on the radius part, radius client part, you need to create one radius clients. So the IP addresses must be same as a user manager customer. Okay, and the secret key must be same that we set in user manager. And then for the hotspot, you just tick hotspot here lah. If you're using as a PPP, you just tick on the PPP. Or you want to use as a login to MacOtic, you just tick on the login. Okay, this one is how you to access the user manager. Okay, you are using WAN IP for MacOtic and /userman. All right, this one is router credential that you use for authentication for the radius part. So for the IP address must be same as you set in radius client side, and then the secret key must be same. All right, and then the profiling. Okay, you can set the time, for example, for 2 hours, and what is rate limit for this profile. For example, 10 Mbps for download and 2 Mbps for upload. Right, once you create the profile, you need to activate. Okay, once you activate, you can choose you want active this profile for the periods and the limits. Right, so you can control from here. And then you can create user. Okay, you can create one by one on or in bulk. Okay, this one, for example, they create in bulk. They create 10 user at one time. So they put the number of user, for example, 10, and then the username prefix, and then you can control the username length. Okay, the password length, and then you choose the profile assignment for this user. Once you create add, they will automatically generate the user for you automatically. All right, this one is the hotspot login page. So once you create the user, you can use the username and password to log in to your hotspot. Okay. And then this is for your reference. If you want to know more details on the hotspot and user manager, you can go to MacOtic Wikipedia. All the information is there, so you can go through or what topic you interested. So if you want to refer on this topic, you can go to either user manager or hotspot configurations introductions. And then we show you how to create the hotspot and user manager. All right, that's all for the today's topics. MacOtic user manager. So if you have any question, you can ask me now. Okay, if you have a question, you can also text in chat box. I will read the question for you and answer the questions. Okay, if you have no question, I will end my session today. Thank you for joining us. Sorry, slide. Yeah, I will. Our sales team will send the slide to you all. Okay, anything else? If if I have no any question, I will end my session today. Anything you can contact our sales. Okay, for the slide, they will send to you later. All right, thank you. Bye bye.